There is a sound that does not take up space, yet never leaves it free. It moves through the environment like an invisible layer, constant enough to go unnoticed, present enough to never disappear. It does not announce its arrival, nor does it offer a farewell. It simply remains, mixed with the air, with the light, with the idea of normality. It is not a sound that demands attention, it is a sound that leans on habit. The space around it appears stable, functional, intact. Nothing visibly vibrates, nothing trembles, nothing asks to be corrected. And still, something remains in continuous activity, sustaining a minimal tension, almost polite, as if the environment itself had learned not to draw attention to what never stopped. Silence exists only as a word. Beneath it, something insists on continuing.
Time passes without marking a difference. The sound crosses mornings and nights with the same neutral intensity, accompanying automatic gestures, interrupted thoughts, pauses that never fully rest. It blends into the normal functioning of things as if it were a structural part of the space, like walls, wires, surfaces. No one points to it. No one asks where it comes from. The body learns to coexist, adjusting itself imperceptibly. Breathing settles into a rhythm that is not entirely free. Muscles remain slightly alert, as if waiting for something that never arrives. Nothing seems wrong. Precisely because of that, nothing feels resolved. The sound does not disturb enough to be rejected, nor does it fade enough to be forgotten.
Over time, the presence of the sound stops being recognized as presence. It becomes background. It becomes base, a continuous state upon which other experiences rest. Silence comes to be defined not by the absence of noise, but by the inability to distinguish what is there. The mind moves forward, occupied with tasks, images, decisions too small to justify exhaustion. The body, however, records everything. It sustains a discrete readiness, a vigilance without an object, as if something needed to be kept under control even without a visible threat. There is no alarm, there is no warning, only continuity. And within that continuity, something begins to wear down without making any sound at all.
There are moments when the environment seems too quiet. Instances when everything finally appears calm, organized, at rest. But relief does not arrive. Silence does not relax. It feels artificial, incomplete, as if something were being omitted. The sound remains there, not as noise, but as the absence of rest. It is in this false silence that strangeness settles in. There is no shock, no fear, only the vague perception that the promised rest never fully happens. The space remains functional, life continues operating, but something stays active beneath the surface, preventing any total surrender to quiet.
The where does not manifest as collapse. There is no event, no break, no clear sign of failure. It happens as slow erosion, distributed across time. A fatigue without a specific cause, an irritation without a defined target, a sense of always being slightly behind oneself. The sound remains the same,
It does not increase. It does not diminish. It is precisely this constancy that prevents any immediate reaction. Nothing changes enough to justify intervention. Everything changes enough to prevent relief. At some point, an expectation of an alert emerges. The silent idea that if something were truly wrong, there would be a clear warning, a crossed threshold, an unmistakable signal. But the warning does not come. The sound does not turn into an alarm. It remains contained, functional, tolerable. The wait for a greater sign stretches on, and with it, the transfer of responsibility. Something external should warn. Something external should interrupt. Meanwhile, vigilance continues, assumed without agreement, maintained without recognition. Vigilance becomes part of the identity of the space. Even in moments of pause, something remains active. Rest is partial, interrupted, superficial. The mind slows down, but does not switch off. The body lies still, but does not release. The sound sustains this readiness like an invisible task, never declared, never concluded. There is no conscious choice involved, only continuity, only adaptation, only the silent cost of remaining attentive to something that never reveals itself. The revelation does not arrive as impact. It does not invade, accuse, or demand immediate response. It forms slowly, as an inevitable realization. The sound was never just noise. It was always a signal, not of a specific danger, but of a prolonged state of imbalance, accepted as normality. Ignoring it was a form of survival. Adapting was necessary, but the price of that adaptation accumulated in the body, in time, in perception. The signal was always there, active, constant, waiting to be recognized. After that, the sound does not change. The environment does not transform. Routine remains intact. What changes is the impossibility of not hearing. What once blended with silence now stands out as continuous presence. There is no return to the previous state. Anesthesia is lost. A discrete form of mourning appears, not for the loss of something concrete, but for the loss of comfortable ignorance. The sound now occupies a different place, not louder, not greater, only more conscious. The lack settles in as presence. Not the lack of noise, but the lack of true rest. There is no promise of solution. There is no instruction. Only coexistence with what has been recognized. The discomfort offers no consolation. It simply accompanies. The space remains the same, but the experience of it changes. Every silence now carries the weight of what was never absent. Life continues in a background state. Tasks are completed. Relationships persist. Decisions are made. But something remains open. A process that does not close. A listening that does not shut off. The sound becomes an invisible mirror of the inner condition,
reflecting not a punctual problem, but a prolonged way of existing under constant minimal tension. Nothing demands immediate correction. Nothing allows complete forgetting.
In the end, there is no absolute silence. There is only the continuity of the sound, now crossed by awareness. The space sustains the same apparent quiet, but it is no longer neutral. The final moment does not close the experience, it displaces it beyond the video. The viewer carries a specific lack, the impossibility of once again confusing signal with silence. The sound remains where it has always been. What changes is who is listening.